Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine building a direct-to-consumer brand that's, pulling in $50,000 a month.
Right, which is a massive milestone for anyone.
Totally. The logistics are humming along, customers are happy, and the revenue graph is just pointing up into the right.
The dream scenario, basically.
Exactly. But then you look closely at your operating statements, and you realize $900 of that revenue simply vanishes every single month.
Just gone.
Yeah, it's just gone. It doesn't go to taxes. It's not shipping materials or like ad spend. It vanishes entirely because of your zip code.
And that invisible siphon is exactly why we are opening the hood on e-commerce infrastructure today.
Yeah, we're diving into a really intensely detailed, roughly 17-minute read. It's called Disadvantages of Shopify, where the platform actually hurts.
And the mission for this deep dive is definitely not to bash the platform. I mean, Shopify is obviously a titan.
Oh, for sure. It powers millions of successful businesses.
Right. But our focus today is strictly on exposing the structural realities. We want to look at the hard-coded limitations baked into how the product is built, priced, and licensed.
Yeah, we are looking for the friction points that no clever workaround or, basic plan upgrade can fully remove.
Because if you're a founder plotting out a new venture or an operator at a growing brand,
Or honestly, even just someone fascinated by the hidden mechanics of the internet economy.
exactly. This is your eyes wide open briefing. We're going to get into the nuts and bolts of what you're actually buying into.
Because to me, buying into a platform like this feels a lot like buying a ticket on a budget airline.
Oh, that's a really good way to look at it.
Right, like the initial fare looks amazing. You see a $39 price tag and you think, wow, this is a steal.
But then comes the reality check.
Yeah, because by the time you pay to pick your seat, check a bag, print your boarding pass, and buy a bottle of water, you are paying full price.
Yeah.
If not substantially more, honestly.
The math on that cost stack backs up your airline analogy perfectly. I mean, the marketing heavily features the $39 basic plan.
Or the $105 grow plan, right?
Yeah, or the $399 advanced plan. But the source breaks down the true financial distribution for a typical mid-sized store, and it's wild.
What does that actual breakdown look like?
Well, when you look at their total platform spend, the monthly subscription fee represents only about 12% of the pie.
Wait, only 12%?
Just 12%. Meanwhile, third-party apps take 28%, and transaction fees consume a massive 35% of their costs.
Wow, so the sticker price is really merely the floor.
Exactly. The sticker price is just the cover charge to get in the building.
So let's unpack those transaction fees, because this brings us back to that $900 vanishing into thin air.
Right, what the source calls the penalty of geography.
Yeah. But let me play devil's advocate for a second here. Doesn't every single digital platform charge transaction fees?
Sure, they do.
Like, if a customer swipes a credit card anywhere on the planet, Visa, MasterCard, or Stripe takes a cut. So why is this framed as a structural flaw of Shopify and not just, the universal cost of doing business online?
What's fascinating here is that the structural flaw lies in the secondary surcharge. Shopify isn't simply passing along the standard credit card processing fee.
Okay, so they're adding something on top.
Yes, they add their own penalty fee, specifically if a merchant does not use their proprietary payment processor, which is Shopify Payments. It's an additional 0.2 to 2% tacked onto every single transaction, depending on which plan you're on.
But the obvious solution is just to use Shopify Payments.
Right.
Like just use their system and avoid the surcharge.
You'd think so. But the catch is that Shopify Payments relies on Stripe's underlying infrastructure.
Which isn't available everywhere.
Exactly. It is not available globally. If you operate in large parts of Latin America, Africa, Eastern Europe, or vast areas of Asia, you physically cannot activate Shopify Payments.
Oh, wow. So you are completely locked out of the preferred system.
Right. You are forced to route your transactions through a third-party gateway, which means you are structurally forced to pay Shopify's penalty surcharge forever.
Just because of where you live.
Yes. Returning to your opening scenario, a store in an unsupported country doing $50,000 a month on the basic plan loses an extra $900 every month.
That is brutal. So it is fundamentally a tax on geography, not a tax on choice.
Precisely. You have no choice in the matter.
Man. And as long as we're talking about margin bleed, we have to look at the return policy trap detailed in the source.
Oh, this is a big one.
Yeah, this is another area where the mechanics of the platform really seem to work against the merchant. When a customer returns, say, a $100 pair of shoes, you obviously refund their money.
Right, standard retail practice.
But Shopify keeps the original credit card processing fee.
Which is roughly 2.9% plus 30 cents.
Right. And if you run an apparel or footwear brand, a 30% return rate is entirely standard. Like, that's just normal business.
It's totally expected in that vertical.
So by permanently losing the processing fee on almost a third of your orders, you are structurally losing nearly a full percent of your top-line revenue to phantom transaction fees.
Which naturally leads merchants to look for solutions because you can't just bleed margin like that forever.
Right, so what do?
The assumption is usually, I will just upgrade my subscription plan to get better rates and more tools to handle these inefficiencies.
Makes sense. You pay more to get better margins.
But the source highlights a really fascinating behavioral reality here. Merchants rarely upgrade because they want a shiny new feature.
Wait, really? Then why do they upgrade?
They upgrade because they hit arbitrary operational ceilings.
Oh, I get it. Like, you don't jump from the basic plan to the Grow plan because you want a new analytics dashboard.
Exactly. You jump because the basic plan only allows the store owner to have a single login.
Oh, that's crazy. So the minute you hire a single customer service representative who needs their own staff account,
boom! You are forced to upgrade.
well,
Or consider inventory locations. Let's say your brand expands to a mix of retail pop-ups and regional warehouses.
it sounds like a good problem to have. Growth is good.
It is, until the advanced plan caps you at 10 locations. The moment you sign a lease on an 11th location, the system forces you into the enterprise tier, Shopify Plus.
Regardless of your actual revenue volume.
Regardless of revenue, you could be making very little, but if you need that 11th location, you're paying enterprise prices.
That is a serious ceiling. So if the baseline plans intentionally withhold critical operational features, merchants have no choice but to build those features themselves, right?
Yep, by visiting the Shopify App Store.
Which leads us straight into the second major structural flaw from the source, the app dependency tax.
Because a fully functioning modern e-commerce store requires functionality that simply is not native to the core platform.
Yeah, things you would naturally assume are built directly into the system.
Like what?
Well, like if you want to offer your products on a recurring subscription, you have to install a third-party app, like Recharge.
Right.
If you want advanced customer reviews where people can upload photos of the product, that is another app. Loyalty programs like Smile.io, product bundling, seamless return portals like Loop. Each of these requires a separate third-party installation.
And stack 6 or 8 of these together, and your monthly software bill easily inflates by, hundreds of dollars.
$80 to $200 a month, easily. But here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay, let's hear it.
The financial inflation is significant, but the hidden architectural cost is far more damaging.
Because it comes down to site performance.
Exactly. To function, every one of those front-end apps has to inject its own JavaScript into your store's code.
Which bloats everything.
Yeah, let's break down how that actually impacts the user.
Yeah.
Think of an e-commerce store, like a highly tuned sports car.
Okay, I'm following.
Out of the box, the base code is sleek, lightweight, and aerodynamic. But to get the features you need, you start adding heavy aftermarket modifications.
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
You bolt on a massive spoiler, you put a heavy subwoofer in the trunk, maybe some neon underglow.
Right. The car looks incredibly feature-rich.
But eventually, the engine is going to struggle to drag all that extra weight off the starting line.
And the most frustrating part of that engine struggle is that you cannot even tune it.
What do you mean?
Shopify gives merchants almost zero control over the order or the timing in which those third-party scripts execute.
Wait, really? You can't prioritize them?
Nope. When a shopper lands on your site, their browser has to pause, fetch the code for the loyalty widget from an external server, execute that logic, and only then finish painting the screen.
Oh, that sounds incredibly inefficient.
It is. Multiply that process by 8 or 12 apps, and your homepage is suddenly lugging around 1.5 to 3 megabytes of third-party JavaScript.
The technical metric for this is largest contentful paint.
Exactly. It's basically how long it takes for the main image or text on your page to actually become visible to the buyer.
And with that much app bloat, the load time easily drifts into the 3 to 5 second range on mobile devices.
Which is an eternity in e-commerce time.
Think about your own shopping habits as a listener. Like, think about the last time you tapped an Instagram ad for a jacket. The screen goes white. 1 second. 2 seconds, 3 seconds.
By second 4, most shoppers have already closed the tab and gone back to scrolling.
Totally. Conversion rates plummet, and search engines like Google actively penalize your SEO ranking for serving a slow page.
Now, there is a technical escape hatch for this performance ceiling, which is an architecture known as headless commerce.
I've heard that term thrown around a lot.
Yeah, going headless means you use Shopify strictly as the back-end database. It handles the inventory, the pricing, and the checkout math, but you completely discard the front-end website they provide.
So you're just using their invisible plumbing.
Exactly. Instead, you build a custom interface using a framework like Hydrogen, which is Shopify's React-based framework, and connect it to the backend using their storefront API.
So to go back to the analogy, you rip the heavy steel body off the sports car and build a custom carbon fiber chassis from scratch.
That's essentially it, yeah.
It solves the performance issue, obviously, but building a custom headless front end requires hiring a highly expensive, dedicated development team to build and maintain it.
Which is not cheap.
Right. It defeats the entire premise of using a simple managed platform in the first place, which naturally begs the question, if the code is bloated, why can't a merchant just hire a regular web developer to go into the standard Shopify storefront and clean up the code without going fully headless?
Well, because they hit the walled garden of customization. This is our third major structural disadvantage from the source. Customization on a standard Shopify build stops at their proprietary templating language known as Liquid.
Liquid, okay.
Yeah, and Liquid is not a full open source programming environment. It is just a templating engine.
So it's pretty restricted.
Very. It basically takes data from Shopify servers and slots it into predefined placeholders on the page.
I mean, for a merchant selling standard t-shirts or coffee mugs, Liquid is perfectly adequate.
Well, absolutely. For simple catalogs, it's fine.
Yep.
But if you have a complex data model, say a bespoke furniture configurator where changing the fabric type needs to simultaneously update the price, the shipping weight, and maybe a 3D visual model.
Let me guess, Liquid hits an absolute brick wall.
A massive brick wall. You just can't do it natively.
And from what I read, that wall is highest at the most critical juncture of the entire user journey, which is the checkout page.
Oh, the checkout lock-in is notorious.
Right. Unless a brand pays thousands of dollars a month for the Enterprise Plus tier, they cannot host the checkout on their own domain. And they definitely cannot alter the underlying checkout template.
You are entirely locked into their standard flow.
But let me challenge the premise that this is a negative.
Yeah.
Shopify has poured billions of dollars into optimizing that exact sequence, right?
They have, yes. It's highly optimized.
So doesn't standardizing the checkout make it safer, more reliable, and ultimately higher converting for everyone? Why would a brand even want to mess with the checkout page?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, standardizing the checkout is phenomenally effective for selling simple consumer goods. The problem arises in regulated verticals.
Oh, like what?
Consider industries selling pharmaceuticals, complex financial products, or age-restricted items like vape pens and alcohol.
Ah, right. Things with legal requirements.
Exactly. Those businesses legally require custom behaviors at the point of sale. They might need a real-time ID verification flow, a step to validate a doctor's prescription before capturing the credit card, or, mandatory custom legal waivers.
And because the platform locks the checkout down so aggressively below the enterprise tier.
The system physically cannot accommodate those legal requirements. You simply cannot build a compliant checkout flow for those edge cases on standard Shopify.
Wow. That is a massive blind spot for specialized industries.
Mm-hmm.
And the platform's rigidity extends well beyond the checkout, doesn't it?
It really does.
The source highlights profound structural friction in content management, too. Like, if a brand relies heavily on editorial content, where maybe a third of their traffic comes from blogging and organic search, they're basically trying to run a magazine on software built specifically for a cash register.
That's a great way to put it. The content management system is notoriously flat compared to something like WordPress.
How flat are we talking?
Well, there is no native ability to create nested collections. You cannot build an intuitive site architecture like, men's, followed by winter, followed by jackets.
Wait, really? How do you organize anything?
Everything relies on a flat system of tags.
Yeah.
And the URL structures are forcefully rigid as well. Every single blog post is forced to sit under a URL containing /blog/ and every product must sit under /product/.
And you can't change that.
You cannot remove those directories to optimize for search engines. You can't even schedule a proper editorial calendar with a publishing queue.
That sounds exhausting for a content team. So let's trace the journey of a merchant who just accepts all of these trade-offs.
Okay, let's play this out.
They pay the app dependency tax, they navigate the liquid ceilings, they accept the rigid URLs, and despite it all, their brand becomes wildly successful.
Good for them.
Yeah. They decide it is time to expand globally. The natural assumption is that a platform powering millions of stores handles international scale effortlessly.
You would think so. But the reality is that international scale introduces compounding limits. It creates what the source calls the scale trap.
The scale trap. Okay, break that down for me.
Well, Shopify offers a tool called Managed Markets to simplify cross-border selling. It acts as the merchant of record.
Meaning Shopify assumes the complex international tax liabilities, duty calculations, and compliance regulations on your behalf.
Exactly. Which is convenient, but that convenience acts as a severe margin compressor. Selling globally eats margins incredibly fast.
Let's run the math on a single cross-border transaction to see how the platform takes its cut. Say a merchant sells a $100 jacket to a customer in France.
Okay, $100 order.
Using managed markets, Shopify immediately takes a 3.5% fee simply for acting as the merchant of record.
Right, that's off the top.
Then there is a mandatory 1.5% currency conversion fee. Finally, you still pay the standard credit card processing fee on the newly converted amount.
It adds up fast.
It does. On a simple $100 international order, you lose roughly $8.40 just in MR fees, card processing, and currency conversion before you have even picked the item off the shelf to fulfill it.
And if that international success inspires the merchant to launch a distinct regional variant of their store, perhaps a dedicated site for the UK market with localized inventory and tailored marketing.
That seems like the logical next step.
It is, but they run into the multi-store reality. The underlying architecture of Shopify is inherently a single-store model.
What does that mean for the merchant?
Unless a merchant pays for the Enterprise Plus tier, launching a second storefront requires buying a totally separate subscription. Oh, wow. So you cannot just toggle between the US and UK stores from a central dashboard.
Nope. You have to manage completely siloed inventory counts. You have to purchase duplicate licenses for all your third-party apps.
That sounds like an operational nightmare.
It gets worse. Your staff needs separate logins for each region. You end up manually stitching your own operations together across multiple browser tabs.
At a certain point, a merchant might look at the margin compression, the app bloat, and the operational friction and decide, you know what? It is time to migrate to a different platform altogether.
Which triggers the final structural trap mentioned in the source.
Leaving. Yeah.
The asymmetry between the ease of onboarding and the agonizing friction of leaving is staggering. The source actually compares it to a Dita Roach motel.
A roach motel. Because it's incredibly easy to check your products in, but checking your customized site design out is virtually impossible.
Exactly. If you attempt to export your store, your basic commercial data, like the product titles, the pricing, the customer list, the basic order history, that all exports leanly into a simple CSV file. Okay, well, that doesn't sound too bad.
But the digital infrastructure of your brand does not export. Your customized theme code is written in Shopify's proprietary liquid language, which means it cannot be ported to any other platform.
Ah, so you're starting from scratch on design.
Completely. And all the historical data generated by your third-party apps vanishes because it lives on external servers.
Right, because you don't actually own that data.
Exactly. And then there are custom meta fields. If you spent weeks creating custom data attributes to track specific fabric care instructions or internal supplier codes, those custom structures do not export cleanly.
So you're looking at a massive rebuilding project.
Yeah, moving a mid-sized store off the platform becomes a grueling 4 to 8 week project, easily.
And if a merchant runs into complex technical issues during migration, or really at any point in their life cycle, they discover another bottleneck.
The support gatekeeping.
Right. Highly specialized support is heavily gatekept. Tier 1 support is highly generalist.
So if you encounter a complex API bug in your theme or a complicated tax routing error,
you are routed into a slow email queue. Truly complex technical support with dedicated, technically deep support engineers is essentially reserved for the Plus tier.
This raises an important question about digital ownership and how platforms create this huge asymmetry between onboarding and churning.
Absolutely. So synthesizing all of the constraints detailed in the source, We can clearly divide the e-commerce landscape into two distinct buckets.
I agree.
There is a specific profile of merchant who should probably avoid this infrastructure entirely. If you are a content-first publisher relying on editorial traffic, the blogging tools will strangle your growth.
Or if you are building a multi-vendor marketplace where different independent sellers manage their own catalogs, the single merchant architecture will fight you at every turn.
We must also include heavily regulated verticals requiring custom ID verification at checkout, as the walled garden prevents legal compliance.
And finally, if a brand employs an in-house development team that demands full end-to-end ownership of the code base and the technical stack, a managed platform's rigid boundaries will feel like a straitjacket.
But, and this is important, for a very specific profile, the platform is an absolute powerhouse.
Oh, without a doubt.
If you are running a single brand direct-to-consumer company and you prioritize speed to market over custom code, it is incredibly effective. It handles fast launches perfectly if you don't have a dev team.
And it handles omnichannel retail brilliantly for stores syncing physical point-of-sale registers with their digital inventory.
Right, and crucially, it works best for merchants operating in regions where native payment gateways are fully supported, avoiding that geography tax entirely.
So, choosing enterprise software is never about finding a flawless tool. It is an exercise in choosing the specific disadvantages you're willing to tolerate.
That's a great summary.
A merchant really must weigh whether the undeniable speed, stability, and ease of use are worth trading away back-end control, margin efficiency at scale, and digital ownership.
So what does this all mean for you listening? Think about your own projects or the brands you interact with or buy from daily. Which bucket do they fall into?
Are the trade-offs of immediate convenience worth the long-term structural ceilings?
It's a tough call.
It is. And looking at the broader trajectory of the internet economy, the source material leaves us with a provocative, unresolved tension.
What's that?
Well, plug-and-play platforms like Shopify are becoming increasingly frictionless to use, but structurally more rigid and locked down.
Right, the walled garden gets higher.
Exactly. And on the opposite end of the spectrum, fully custom headless builds remain endlessly flexible, but astronomically expensive to engineer and maintain.
So you're either paying in rigidity or you're paying in pure cash.
Right. This polarization raises a critical question for the future. Is the middle class of e-commerce infrastructure disappearing entirely?
Oh, well.
Are we heading toward a digital landscape where we are left with only two extremes? Cheap, standardized, cookie-cutter storefronts on one side, and million-dollar bespoke digital experiences on the other.
That structural divide forces every founder to pick a side early on. You are either riding in the budget cabin, paying a fee for every operational necessity just to get off the ground,
or you are chartering a private jet with an entire engineering crew.
And the middle ground is vanishing. Keep your eyes open, check the hidden architecture of the tools you rely on, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.